This is Crossworlds, a comic from Genuine Comics. This is a crossover between Antarctic Press and Genuine Comics. So this is featuring Perfect 10 from Perfect 10, which is a Genuine Comics series. And this also features Camilla Wallace, who is from Antarctic Press. And this book is entirely the handiwork of Andre Leal. I'd say this is a pretty good book. This is a non-canon book for the Genuineverse, so nothing that happens really matters in the ongoing storyline in Perfect 10, and of course all the other things that happen in Genuineverse. But this does feature Virgil Pratt and Perfect 10, of course. Virgil Pratt being the man who created Perfect 10, a synthoid who's basically just an android with synthetic tissue that regenerates, and she's also super strong and has a bunch of other powers because of that. But that's getting a little bit into the weeds of what the story is. So this is basically just a government android assassin taking a nice night out, running into Camilla Wallace, and then they have these shenanigans that ensue that involve super-powered antics. And I think for what this story is, it's definitely a pretty good one. The art is definitely a bit dry, if I can use that. Stuff like this, it just doesn't look the best, doesn't look, the figures don't look as integrated in the background as it could be. But all the figures are rendered pretty well. So, the hands here are drawn well. So nothing looks, poorly drawn. It just doesn't look, as good as it possibly could. Or, I think it could look, like I said, a little bit less dry, a little bit more integrated into the entire book. And, some of the figures here just look a little bit like they're placed on there. But otherwise, like I said, the art here is definitely serviceable. The story is pretty simplistic, and given the fact that this is supposed to be a one-shot that's more comical in nature, there's definitely a lot more, forgiving, be a lot more forgiving with the story being a little bit goofy or out there, or having some pacing mistakes, because this isn't supposed to be like a serious world-building story that's part of an epic comic book. This is just a fun little one-shot, and it really serves its purpose in doing that. And honestly, I think for what it is, it's paced pretty well, it's presented pretty well. I think the characters are likable. Of course, I've read Perfect 10, I've got experience with her character, and I think the insight she has here is definitely relevant to reading Perfect 10. So if you read Perfect 10 and you read this, I think you get some insights from the way she just interacts in this storyline that enriches your understanding of Perfect 10. That's really a nice thing that's with crossovers, is that it's not necessarily what they're doing is going to matter to the canon. It's just that you get to see these characters interact in situations that they usually don't. That leads to insights that you typically wouldn't see. But I definitely like reading this book. And it's got some action scenes, but it's mostly, I'd say pretty simple. A lot of what this focuses on is those character interactions between, of course, Perfect 10 and Camilla Wallace, and there's just some action weaved in along the way. Rather than this being like a really high octane action book, there's just some action that helps move the plot and bring it to a nice conclusion. This is a 23-page book, so it's definitely not a super, like I said, it's not a super grandiose story. It's just a comical, lighthearted one-shot crossover, and I really like that for what it is. And of course, having experience with Perfect 10, but not Camilla Wallace, I don't have the full perspective on how his character was executed, but I think this was a very good book. I think it was well done for what it is, and despite, like I said, the art looking a little bit bland, everything else is really serviceable. So it's definitely a worthwhile reading, like I said, for a 23-page one shot that's not really serious in terms of being part of canon, and also just the tone. It's a very comical book. I think Andre Leal did a very good job with Crossworlds. That's really what I have to say with my review. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Joker is out.